Good evening and welcome to the Vic South Star Party live stream for Deep Sky. The Deep Sky session is presented by the Astronomical Society of Victoria and the Astronomical Society of South Australia as part of our Vic South event that was meant to be in person, but unfortunately because of the COVID situation could not be in person this year. Before we begin tonight's stream, I would like to say that in the spirit of reconciliation, the Astronomical Society of Victoria acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. This evening we bring you Galaxies, Nebula, Star Clusters. Oh my, that's right, we are bringing them direct into your home from our astrophotography section's telescopes. We've got some locations set up in South Australia in, I believe, Stockport. I'm sure Kim will clarify that and probably tell me off if I'm wrong. And some of our ASV astrophotographers from around Victoria. Now, as always, if you're enjoying tonight's stream on Facebook, you can donate stars. Those on YouTube can donate stickers. We appreciate all donations, no matter how large or small. And if you're watching us for the first time, do not forget to follow the ASV and the ASSA's Facebook pages and give us a like or press that bell on YouTube pages and subscribe to us on YouTube pages. But first, before we do the raffle, we'll bring in tonight's team. We've got Kim. Welcome, Kim. Kim's he's over in Stockport at the moment. It is Stockport, isn't it?
It's definitely Stockport. I'm here with a few members from ASSA tonight, and including a very squeaky 15-inch dog Sonia next to me.
It's a public members night? It's a members
night, yeah. Members night. We've got about 20 people here.
So if you're an ASSA member, it looks very dark where you are, that's for sure. We have Noel, who's up in Bendigo. We have the Comet Man, Michael Mattiazzo, who gave a talk earlier today about comets and about the Christmas comet. I'm sure he'll get some questions about that tonight. We have Steve Thurm, who's one of our resident experts for the evening. We have the front yard astronomer, who's a little bit different from the backyard astronomer, Lee, over in Cloudwood, formerly known as Ring.
Yeah.
We have Andy, who's near the South Australian border. We have Robert, who's also out in Stockport with Kim. And we have Anne-Marie, who is out, I'm never going to get this right, Anne-Marie, Mount Malden, out Malden Way. So we're talking towards Bendigo. Yeah. So we do need to, I guess, get the important stuff out of the way. And the important stuff tonight is the raffle. So we will share this. Actually, I think I've got the screen shared already. And Sadie, my daughter, has graciously said that she will click the button to spin and announce the winner. So the raffle is for, what was the raffle for again? It was for the Sky Watcher, or it was for so we have two prizes. So we're going to draw second prize first. Okay. So this is for second prize, which is the telescope bag.
Yeah, that's slow.
Oh, and Miss Lee Green just.
Oh, no!
So Ian Enting has won the telescope bag, which is a wonderful prize. Now we're going to do the Sky Watcher. So if you close that and click the button again. Not Lee.
Not Gavin.
Oh my God, Andy!
He wasn't even watching.
He wasn't even watching. Andy's part of our live stream here tonight. He bought tickets and he's won the raffle. Now, Andy,
did you see that? He wasn't watching. He just heard us sort of screaming and thought, "Oh, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Wow. There you go.
No,
so
I'm
Andy,
just
all the way over near the South Australian border, who's providing live images of Galaxies Nebula for us tonight, has won the first prize.
Cool.
That'll go fantastic on that new pier.
There you go, Andy. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, guys.
Wow.
I'm just trying to get the
might
ball
get
out of my
lost in the
screen.
mail, hey?
But,
Huh? So
yeah,
just
fair
quickly
enough.
before
I
we
must have
start,
donated it.
what was that, Andy?
I might have to donate it back, I think.
Do you want to do that? Shall we draw
member,
the raffle again?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Give
All
it a
right.
go. Give
Let's
it,
draw
give it to a new member, eh?
Let's draw the raffle again. That's very generous of you, Andy.
Well done,
So
Andy.
What was it anyway?
let's draw it again. Let's see who gets
We
it.
draw.
It's not Andy.
It was a Skywatch adventurer.
With a plane wave
Yeah.
14-inch.
Beth Van Every has won Skywatcher. Courtesy of
bonus
Andy
plane wave.
putting it back into the raffle. So Beth and Ian will make contact with you in the next few days to let you know and organise delivery of your prizes. And Andy, thank you very much. It's very generous of you to put it back into to be drawn out again. That's really nice of you. Now, before we get started on our list tonight, we have Tommy from Germany saying hi all together from cloudy Germany. It's cloudy Ringwood as well. But I think with the
There's
raffle
Ringwood
out
in
of the
Germany.
way,
Couldn't Morgan. It would be.
Tommy's watched quite a few of our live streams, which is really, really good. So I think we should jump straight into our first object tonight. So tonight we're going to be looking at deep sky objects. We're going to be looking at galaxies and nebula and star clusters and comets as well. We're going to kick it off with a spiral planetary nebula, which is NGC 5189. Now, I believe Anne-Marie said she's got that one ready to rock.
You're just going to have to give me a minute.
You had time to prepare.
I just started it again.
Well, it got to the end of your.
I decided to do 2-minute exposures because it was going through too quickly, and PixInsight couldn't keep up with it. So, so you're going to have to wait a sec.
Well, share your screen anyway with what you've got that's not quite there, and that way we can surprise everybody with what appears.
You won't see anything yet.
Yeah, but that's the thing. We want it to appear in front of our eyes.
But it's not even there for me to put into PixInsight yet. I'm waiting. It's coming. 15 seconds. Am I the only one on this one?
If you want, I've got some archival footage if you want.
Let's have a look at some archival footage to start with. And then we can jump across to Anne-Marie's. So let's have a look at some archival footage, some pre-imaged footage that Michael has taken. And Steve, I'm going to say, take it away, Steve.
It's about what it looks like.
Cheers, thanks. It's a really interesting one. We've headed down into the constellation Musca, which I think is sort of down in the southwest as we speak at the moment. So it'll be sort of disappearing fairly low. Musca the Fly. And what's really interesting about this is kind of if you just look at that image, it doesn't. Mark gave it away by saying it was a planetary nebula, but if you look at it, it looks a bit like a barred spiral galaxy, really. Well, to me it does anyway. But it's not, and in fact, even further sort of interest is that it wasn't initially recognised to be a planetary nebula anyway. It was thought to be an emission nebula. So just a couple of basic facts. As I said, it's in the constellation Musca, which is one of the smaller constellations down, as I say, down in the south. It's magnitude 9.5. Oh, is this Anne-Marie's image?
This is the live view, yes.
Excellent, good. So it's Mag 9.5, so it's not very bright. It's about 4,000 light years away, so it's a reasonable distance away anyway. It was discovered by James Dunlop back in 1826. And as I kind of mentioned earlier, it was thought to be an emission nebula. And it wasn't actually until 1967 when a good chap called Carl Gordon Hanese, I think is how you'll pronounce it. He was the first person to describe it as a planetary nebula based on the spectral emissions that he was able to monitor coming from it. That's all the details that I've actually got on it. But it's an interesting, as planetary nebula go, it's a pretty complex one. To some extent, with it's full of little filaments, a little bit like those of you familiar with the Crab Nebula M1. It's similar in terms of the sort of filaments to M1. But there's that definite sort of barred spiral sort of shape to it, which I think makes it a really interesting object. And I don't think we've ever looked at this object on any of the live streaming sessions. And I'm not even sure. I don't think I've actually looked at this through a telescope. So this is definitely one that I'm going to put on the list for when we get back up to our dark site at Heathcote. Could be a good one to look at through the 40-inch, because planetary nebulae come up really good on the 40, and I know Paul Gardner is very keen on looking at planetary nebulae, so we'll add that one to his list, I think. Anyone else got any interesting comments about it?
I've got nothing. I've got nothing to add to this one on this. This is why you're the expert, Steve.
Oh, cheers.
You've covered it pretty darn well, really. That's for sure. I'm not sure unless
pretty well,
anything they'd like to add to what we're looking at. I'm not sure they have. I think we've stumped everyone with this one, which is a good one.
So, Anne-Marie, you're using it's a monochrome camera, I'm assuming?
Yep, the ZWO ASI 1600.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what it's like in colour. I wouldn't mind having to go at this one myself.
It's certainly a little bit like if you've ever seen colour images of the Crab, well, you have seen colour images of the Crab Nebula. It kind of has that sort of look of lots of different colours in all the filaments. It's quite an interesting object.
Yeah.
So I think we might get ready to start moving across to the next object, which is NGC 5617, which is the Dracula Cluster. That was really bad, wasn't it? Channeling my inner dad there.
So this, Mark, you and I know this goes back to some conversation we were having. I think, was it with Andy?
It was, yes.
We thought we'd try and sort of give, a little bit of a theme to the evening with us being on Halloween Eve. We try and pick up on one or two sort of Halloween themed objects, but I suspect this object may be a bit of a disappointment for us.
The Dracula Cluster. I'm trying to see how it looks like a Dracula.
You and me both. I'll give it
maybe because it looks like sharp, fangy teeth, and like that's really about it. But I can see, if you look at the bright stars, I can see like fang type teeth, and that's really about it.
Yeah,
can't really see much more than that.
Is it the wings that are the brighter stars on the outer edges, bat wings?
It could be that. It could be that it looks like a bat, and therefore they've linked it in with Dracula.
We might.
There's a little bit of nebula in it. There is a little bit of nebula in it. I've got about a minute before mine will come up.
I'm just going to welcome Perry to the stream. Good evening, Perry. Welcome aboard.
Hi, guys. Good evening, everybody.
Right, we're on the second one. We're on Dracula Cluster. Is there anything that you can sort of throw our way on Dracula Cluster? Have you had a look at that one?
I think you seriously must carry a lot of garlic with you whenever you're looking at this.
The only thing The only thing we can think of is there's a bit of a bat shape to it with the bright stars, and that's about it.
It's not a particularly prominent cluster. This is the one near Alpha Centauri.
Yeah.
It's between Hadar and Rigel.
No, not Rigel. It's Regal Centaurus.
Regal Centaurus, sorry. Yeah, it's between Hadar. Yeah, it's between Regal Centaurus and Hadar.
In the middle there. So fairly easy to find, isn't it?
It is. There's nothing a lot, though, to actually note it to astronomers. And I think the biggest curiosity is its name, especially so close to Halloween. But very near here, of course, we have a fantastic little thing, and that's Proxima Centauri, just maybe a degree away from it. So
I was just going to say, is there a bright star next to it? Because you can see mine. I've got a big flare. I've got that up now, Mark.
Yeah, that'll be
Alpha Centauri.
And a big circle around it, which would be coming from that.
Yep. If you look at the top of the screen where it's got Alpha Centauri
right at the top
there,
here,
right, and keep that star in mind, draw a straight line from Regal Centaurus or Alpha Centauri to Beta Centauri, Hadar, and if you take a line from what did we say before, Alpha up at the top there, and go straight to the middle of those two, out from Alpha Centauri, about halfway along is where Proxima Centauri is. No, a little bit further over towards Alpha Centauri. Yeah, and just a bit higher. About, stop there. And if, I wish I had my pointer here, but if you zoom in very slowly, I'll be able to point it out. But it's particularly faint. It's around 11th magnitude. Okay. Stop there. Now, go up from there, further up. Bit to the left. Stop. Come back down a bit. Just a touch more. Okay, stop there. Immediately to the left of the cursor is a little triangle with an extra star at the tip of it.
Got it, yeah.
Can you bring that down a bit more? Bring it down a bit more. A bit more. Okay, stop there. Now, the tip of that triangle points to a fairly bright star, maybe, stop there. So zoom in a little bit more again. Stop.
Yep.
Stop. Now, from where that original triangle with the extra star is, go towards the left corner of the screen, but only about a quarter of the way. Down, no, stop, come back a bit more, stop, go
I
down
can see
a
which
little
one you're
bit
talking
more.
about, Perry. Are you talking about that orange-looking star there?
Now move slightly to the left, but stop. Just below the cursor.
Yeah.
There, that's it. That is Proxima Centauri.
So what's important about Proxima Centauri?
Well,
I should have done a
Proxima
search for it.
Centauri is the closest star to us after the Sun. It's the third star in the Alpha Centauri system. So it's 1/10 of a light year closer to Earth than Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B. So that is our nearest neighbour.
So, Anne-Marie, we're going to jump to some other images, but can I ask, well, before we jump to M16 and M20, can you jump across to this and try and take an image of it for us? Is that possible for you to do?
Centauri.
Yeah.
If I can
You
find
reckon
it.
you can get that one?
I've got that Darth Vader or whatever it was is up on my screen, and I will see.
Oh,
if I can
okay.
find this.
We can come back to that one afterwards. We've still got a couple others to go before that. Do you want to give this one a go? Just out of curiosity more so than anything.
It doesn't really have a designation that I can use. I'll see.
Give it a go. If we can't, we've got an old image that we can jump back to. In the meantime, we're going to jump across to Noel, who's on M20. There we go. So I'm going to hand that one over to Steve to start with, and then Steve, you can handball it to Perry. Let's have a chat a bit about Trifid Nebula.
Well, I think this has become one of our favourite objects to look at over the live streaming sessions that we've done, and quite rightly, it's a beautiful object, particularly the colour image where you can see that sort of combination of the red Emission Nebula and the blue Reflection Nebula up in the sort of upper left. So the Trifid Nebula is, as you said, is M20, 5,200 light years away, and the name. I always have a bit of a problem with it being called the Trifid Nebula because, to me, and I think this is because I've seen these sort of high quality images too much, where the red Emission Nebula, as you can see here, is actually divided into sort of 4 rather than 3 areas. So Trifid is the sort of the 3 areas, but I think when you're looking at it through a telescope, you only really see the 3 dark lanes. By the way, that the dark nebula which forms the Trifid in the sort of centre there, the arms coming out, that's actually Barnard 85. Another interesting little fact is this is pretty young, so it's only about 300,000 years old. It's a very bright object, well as nebulae go. So mag 6.3. Perry, any interesting facts that you've got?
Probably the most interesting, actually, Steve, has to do with visual observations. Many years ago, as a fledgling observer up at our dark sky site, the first time I looked at it away from the city with my 13-inch Coulter, it was quite distinctive. You could see the shape of it, and you could see the 2 parts. You could see a bluish nebula and a pinkish nebula, not as bright as what they are in this image here, but they were distinctive. Now, what is extraordinary is that I saw the colours in reverse. And I thought, what the hell? What's going on here? Because I compared it with photographs, and the bit which looks bluish was in the telescope eyepiece was in fact the bottom part, which looks pinkish in this image, and the top part, which is blue here, looked pinkish to my eye. And so I thought I just had crazy eyes. So I called over some of the other people that were there. There was a guy called Ian McGilvray, who was a friend of Mark Sanson's and Steve Patty's. And I asked him to have a look as well. And he also reported seeing the colours the same way as I did. And so did some other people. So I'm interested to know from anybody else that has observed this object visually through a reasonably large telescope, if they've actually noticed the reversing of the colours as well. I don't know why that is so, but a number of us see the colours the other way around.
Yeah, that's I know from my own sort of observing that I don't think I've ever been able to see any red colour at all in visually observed nebulae. I don't think my eyes are good enough. But you know, typically what I do see instead of red is I see a sort of a greenish hue, which is really just down to the way our eyes catch the light. So yeah, but not reverse the way you were saying. That's interesting.
I was just going to say I'm keen to have a look visually myself to see if that's the case now.
Well, as I said, a number of us that night saw it that way, and every other time I looked at it through the same scope or any other large scope, I did notice those colours. However, that was, 30 years ago now, when my eyes were a lot better. Actually, the whole of me was a lot better.
I wasn't going to say anything, but you've gone there first. So
yes, well, no shame.
No, I'll be in that same place soon as well.
Yep, every wrinkle tells a story.
It does indeed.
So, and usually they're pretty good stories to tell. But so I'd be interested to hear from people in their 30s or younger and see what they've seen visually through at least a 10-inch or 12-inch instrument.
Now, before we jump across to the next object, I just want to say that we've got Project Oxcart watching from the UK, and Neil is watching with his mother and father in Knox. While we're doing this, if you're watching the stream tonight, just let us know where you're watching from. That we'd love to know where you're watching this stream from. Always interesting to see where our viewers are coming from.
As we're moving to the next object, we're going to be looking at one or two nebulae during the course of that. Well, assuming that we get clear skies, and I don't know whether those listening in or watching in on the call, when we talk about emission nebulae and reflection nebulae, quite what we're talking about there. But just in very simplistic terms, you can see with the Trifid Nebula, the red part of the nebula is an emission nebula, and you can see in the centre there are some very bright young stars in the centre, and the ultraviolet radiation is actually ionizing the gas in that red area and making the gas glow. And that's what an emission nebula is. So it's where the gas itself is glowing, whereas a reflection nebula, which is the blue portion at the top, the gas isn't glowing, it's just reflecting the light coming from some of the stars in the vicinity of that gas. And so, as the name suggests, it reflects the light, so it's a reflection nebula. So the names are fairly meaningful once you kind of understand a little bit about what they are. So that's Steve's simplistic overview of what an emission and reflection nebulae are. If we had Stefan on the call, then of course we would get a much more technical explanation.
We do have a question. We do have a question that yourself or Perry might be able to answer. And Drew's asked the question: what's the difference between a planetary nebula and Steve's simplistic explanation of a nebula, a normal nebula?
Well, a planetary nebula is a bit of a misnomer, actually. And the name comes from William Herschel first spotting these objects. And he had also discovered Uranus at that stage, and it appeared to have a disk roughly circular and also to have a faint powder blue sort of colour to it. So every time he found one of these new little nebulae that looked spherical or disc-shaped and had that bluish colour, it reminded him of Uranus, and so he began referring to them as planetary, because being reminded of the planet, as planetary nebulae. But in fact, planetary nebulae, we now know, have absolutely nothing to do with planets. They are much, much smaller than the nebulae that Steve was referring to earlier as emission or reflection nebulae, whether it be gas that's excited to shine, or dust that's reflecting light from nearby stars. They're much larger than what planetary nebulae are, because they are the end point of a star about the size of the sun, which puffs out the outer layers of its atmosphere towards the end of its life and sets that gas back into the interstellar medium, and eventually, over many millions, if not billions of years, it again coalesces and perhaps forms with other gas into another star. Now, the thinking currently, to the best of my knowledge at least, is that the sun is a third generation star. So in other words, stars that have done that already, puffed out the outer layers of their atmosphere, whether it be in their giant phase or going off as supernovae, and then the gas reassembling itself through the interstellar medium over a long period of time to form another star. So that's the difference between them.
It's a very good explanation. It's a very good explanation. Now, before we have a discussion about what we're looking at right now, I've got to put this one out here. Andrew is like watching in his car in Blackburn with his phone plugged in because he's still got no power. That's dedication, is it not? That is dedication to watching astronomy. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us from your car in Blackburn using a phone charger in the car.
Keep your eyes on the road and your hands upon the wheel, as Jim Morrison said.
So we have people watching from Blakeview South, South Australia, Craigieburn, Dandenong North, Shepparton, Craigmore, Kew East, Bunyip in Victoria, Point Cook, the Adelaide Hills, Caulfield North as well. So we've got them Point Cook, Ferntree Gully in Victoria. So we've got viewers all over the place watching our stream tonight, guys. So, Steve, I'll throw back across to you to give us a bit of an explanation about what we're looking at right now.
Oh, it's gone blurry. So this is the Eagle Nebula, I think.
Yes,
it is.
M16.
So another interesting one, this in that it was sort of originally discovered as the open cluster rather than the nebula itself. So we sort of refer to M16 as the Eagle Nebula, but it's really the sort of the Eagle open cluster and nebula. In the brighter part of the so this is another Mission Nebula, primarily an Emission Nebula. Thank you. So in the bright part there, you can see those sort of little dark areas, and this is the famous Pillars of Creation, made famous by the image that was taken by the Hubble telescope back in its fairly early days, I think. It would have been after it had its glasses put on, but quite a few years ago now. If we were able, if we had the quality of the sort of the Hubble image, we would be able to zoom in and see the star forming areas, the very dark sort of black globule areas that look so phenomenal in that picture that Hubble managed to take. The Eagle Nebula is it's a fair way away. It's 5,700 light years away, but it is a fairly bright object, mag 6.4. Not as visually, I don't think this is as easy to see as the Swan or Omega Nebula, which is M17, which is fairly close to the Eagle Nebula. That stands out a bit easier visually. So I think that probably explains why it was initially seen as being an open cluster, and it wasn't until later that the nebula was identified as well.
It kind of says something, if I may, Steve.
Yeah, sure.
It says something about the quality of Messier's telescopes, because none of them was of a high enough aperture or good enough quality to be able to discern this wispy nebulosity. And many of these objects which Messier found, at first he simply described as nebula with no star or cluster, and eventually these objects turned out to be galaxies or nebulosity hiding amongst the cluster of stars. And initially with, I think, was it, now maybe I've got that wrong, I won't go there, but there was quite a bit of poor visual determination from those early observers because of the quality of their instruments. So even though they had fantastically dark skies compared to what we enjoy from our cities, the quality of the instrumentation was yet to reach a high enough caliber to discern a lot. And in fact, we should have a look at M17, the Swan Nebula, because that is probably, well, it's my favourite nebula within the Messier catalogue. So the nebulosity is much easier to discern, and it actually does look like a swan gliding along the river of milk, which is the Milky Way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there, Perry, that it's certainly one of my, because visually it really stands out as that. Whereas the Eagle Nebula here, as much as we know there's some really interesting stuff in it, visually it's nowhere near as exciting to look at.
No, so if somebody would like to pull up M17, that would be a good comparison
So
with this
if
one.
someone wants to jump to M17 while we jump across to M8, mate. We're going to go to mate. Kim's had mate for M8 for quite a while. So this is a live stacked image of mate or M8 Lagoon Nebula while we wait to see if we can get M17 happening.
Very nice, Kim.
So Perry, just so you know, Kim's out at I get it right, Stockport at the moment.
Is
at their dark sky site. So he's got really pristine skies at the moment.
Now, just the brightest part of the nebulosity, if you look immediately below that, there appears to be sort of a moat, a dark moat around it.
No, down a bit further, Kim, between the...
That's the spot.
Oh, that's the spot?
Okay. Yeah, that is the spot, and that's what originally gave it the name of the lagoon, because it looks like a lagoon through the cluster there. But our telescopes and cameras are so good that we don't see it like a dark lagoon anymore, but visually through a telescope, that's what you would see.
So these are 30-second exposures. They've been stacked over the last half hour or so. And we're using an L-extreme filter, which is a combination of hydrogen alpha and oxygen 3, for those who wanted to know.
Looks excellent, Kim.
Yeah, it's a very good shot. Steve,
In
do you have
fact,
anything to add? Do you have any? It's got good depth, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look, this is another one of these wonderful nebulae in Sagittarius. There's a sort of whole line of them with sort of M8, M20, M16 and M17, and I can remember in my early visual days, I used to live up to the north of Melbourne in Yarrambat, so near Doreen, and these were very, very good objects to look at visually. Then they're probably not as good now with all of the development that's gone on up in the north of Melbourne. But this is kind of where I cut my teeth with my 10-inch Dobsonian. I used to get some really great views of these objects. So, I think the 4 Messier nebulae that we've talked about are up in my sort of my favourites list. But M8 is by far the biggest of the 4. But because it's so well, as you can see from this image, it's very bright as well, so it's easy to see. Whereas often with the bigger nebulae, that they become very diffuse and difficult to see. But no, not with M8. In fact, you can see M8
globules.
Yeah, Bok globules, those dark things. Yeah.
Yes, the Bok globules were first seen by Bart Bok, of course, from Mount Stromlo, and now we know that those little dark spots that Kim is showing us are, in fact, proto-stars and proto-solar systems are going to be born out of those little dark spots, and new stars, just like the other ones in the nebula there, will be born in those positions as well.
Now, before we move on to our next few objects, Perry, we're going to jump back to Proxima. So we've got an image that Anne-Marie's taken of Proxima.
I am.
Trying to work out which one it might be, Anne-Marie, if you'd like to let
Should
us
be-
know.
Should be dead center,
Dead
I would
centre.
imagine.
So that's the one right in the middle there.
I don't know which star though.
I can,
Only
if
Perry can tell you
somebody can put a cursor on there, I'll guide you. Stop, lower, straight down.
Yeah, the
That-
bright one there.
That's it. Yep.
So that is our nearest neighbour star-wise.
Yep. Not anything to write home about, is it?
No,
No,
not.
but it's still interesting that that there is the nearest sun to us other than our sun.
It is. Not that one, the brighter one. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
all right there.
That's great. That's a first for me, Perry. Thanks for that. I've never seen Proxima before.
well, now you've got to go and do it visually, Steve. This is cheating.
Go up to the Dark Sky site and give it a go, hey?
Good luck finding it.
Steve's been live stacking recently, so
Well,
he's already
well,
come to the dark
I'll
side.
try and- but none of that plate solving stuff.
All right, so we might jump across to NGC 6405 for the moment, which Noel's got in his scope at the moment. And I'm going to hand over to you, Steve, again.
Well, I would if I knew where it was in my list.
Oh, it's the next one on.
Is this the butterfly cluster?
Oh,
It is indeed the butterfly
Sorry.
cluster, yes.
M6. Yes. So
Sorry, I
apologies.
gave you an NGC. I should have given you an M.
And when I did my notes, I kind of put probably the most well-known name, which will be Matthew against it, and I didn't put the NGC number. So
That's my fault. I apologise for that.
No, that was my doing. So now this is the butterfly cluster, and through visually in a suburban sky, it really does look like a butterfly, an open wing butterfly. The problem is once you start to include a lot more stars, with this kind of an image, it gets harder to see. But this is one of our staples with when we're doing astronomy for our outreach program, because the kids can identify the butterfly in there if we're doing a sort of school event. But it's actually quite hard to see. You can kind of see the outstretched wings of the butterfly there. It's in the constellation Scorpius, so this is now getting fairly low down to the western horizon, I would think. Is this Anne-Marie, or is this someone else?
It's Noel and Bendigo.
Oh, wow.
Noel
so
and Bendigo.
It's pretty low, I would think, to your western horizon now, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, it is. There's there's my scope simulator. So yeah, we're quite low.
1,600 light years away, and it's pretty bright, mag 4.1. So I think we found this with when we do live streaming sessions, that unfortunately the open clusters kind of come out a little bit disappointing compared with some of the other objects that we look at. But what I do know is that visually, if I was looking at this through my 10-inch scope, it's a beautiful object.
So, Perry, do you have anything to add to what Steve said about the butterfly cluster?
Well, I can see the wings and the antennae, and that's as beautiful. orangey supergiant there that's displayed. And as Steve said, visually, it's a beautiful object. You can spot this as a faint haze if you've got really good eyes from the city. Fairly easy to spot it from a dark sky site. And from the city, binoculars are a good way to see it. You don't see all of those stars or the shape of the butterfly, but being able to spot it is a wonderful thing. A little bit 1 degree south of the butterfly cluster is Ptolemy's cluster, M7, which is the southernmost object in Messier's catalogue. In other words, he couldn't see any further south than that particular object. So his horizon from where he was on top of the Hotel de Cluny, pardon my French, in the middle of Paris, using the telescopes of the French Naval Observatory. He couldn't see further south to be able to spot objects like Omega Centauri or the Jewel Box cluster. I occasionally have some of my astronomy students asking questions like, why don't the Jewel Box or Omega Centauri have Messier numbers? And there's the answer to your question, because from Paris at 49 degrees north, Messier could not see those objects because they were below his southern horizon.
Lovely explanation there. And you're right, that bright orange one, that big orange bugger, it's a big, it is. It's just, it stands separate from the rest of them. It's in your face, really, compared to the other ones that are there. So,
yeah,
Noel,
strangely, Mark, I don't recall it being quite as bright as that through the eyepiece visually. So maybe it's part of the photographic chain there with a camera or whatever.
That's what I was going to ask Noel. How long is that exposure?
Yeah, we've stacking 30-second exposures here, and I've got 76 odd stacked at the moment. So
It's quite a lot of exposures there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just using an ultraviolet block on the filter on the camera, so it shouldn't be restricting much of the star color coming through. But yeah, it certainly is prominent. That's for sure. I don't remember it being that prominent looking at it visually. The as Steve mentioned earlier, the wings are quite easy to pick out when you're looking at the through the big telescopes.
We're just going to trying to get our next object up, which is hopefully it's going to be NGC 6723, the Chandelier Cluster.
Oh,
which
That's
Noel's
what I've
going
got
to
up.
quickly. Oh, you've got it, have you, Anne-Marie? Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
There we go.
And there's a tree, so you've got to be quick. It's getting really
There's a
low.
tree, so we've got to be quick.
Yeah.
Go, guys.
This is a globular cluster in Sagittarius, reasonably bright one, 28,000 light years away. For the life of me, I don't know why it's called the Chandelier Cluster, other than perhaps it's got something to do with it being reasonably close to a reflection nebula, which is NGC 6726. You can't actually see it in this image, and whether you bring everything together and it kind of looks a bit like a chandelier, I'm not sure. But Anyone got any idea why it's called the chandelier cluster? Because it really just looks like a normal globular cluster to me.
I think it may have been named after a fair bit of champagne was imbibed, Steve.
I'm kind of with you on that one.
I love it.
Like, it just looks like to me, it looks like a typical glob, like a 47 tuck or something like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing chandelier about it.
It's particularly dense in the core, though. It's pretty well burnt out there in the middle. M22 is nearby there as well. It's not far away. And also 6397 in Ara. They would be good comparisons for this as well, because they're quite a bit closer. 28,000 light years makes it one of the farthest globular clusters that orbit the Milky Way.
So this is so you're saying this is one of the furthest ones away from us.
Was that M72 or 27?
I'm sorry?
M22.
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 So M22 is the third brightest globular in the sky. It sits just off the lid of the teapot in Sagittarius.
Anne-Marie, do you want to jump across to that quickly? And then while you're doing that, I know it's a little bit off topic, but while you're doing that, we'll jump onto Michael's screen, which is Michael the Comet Man, who's going to share with us an image he's taken just then of Comet Dearest, Comet 6P. This is,
yes, indeed.
Take it away, Michael.
Prior to that, I've actually got that image, that combined image of the globular cluster associated with that nebulosity.
So do you think that's got anything to do with the chandelier thing? Or it doesn't look like a chandelier, does it really? But,
no.
Not really. But it's got a very, very prominent dark nebulosity here as well. Which
yes, it's a good image, that, isn't it?
And it's only a 30-second shot as well, so there is a lot more detail in this than what you can
That's
currently see.
NGC 6726 is that area of nebulosity.
Yeah, yep.
It's a reflection nebula.
Yep. Also, speaking a bit earlier that Perry was mentioning the Swan Nebula. This was the Swan from Swan Hill. Just had to throw that one.
It's the Swan Hill Nebula.
You've been practicing your stand-up, Michael.
Stand-up comedy.
Michael, go back. Show our viewers the neck, the head, the body, so that they can see it.
Yes. So it's basically got it's floating on water, if you can imagine. It's just got a flat body there with the neck and the head just poking out. It's also known as the Omega Nebula, but I'd much prefer it be called the Swan.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed.
There we are. Just another one thing you didn't mention about the Lagoon. It's got an hourglass right inside the core. So if you ever use a high-powered telescope, you can have a look at that hourglass shape right.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Quite amazing.
And there's the Lagoon now. You can see it much better in this particular image.
Yeah.
The dark lane encircling it. Yep.
Yep, and it's also within vicinity of the tripod as well, which is quite
Can we just go back to chandelier quickly?
Yep.
So Google is our friend. Our followers and our friend. David Fisher is saying chandelier means cluster. And I'm assuming that would be...
So it's the cluster cluster.
Chandelier.
It's the cluster cluster. Chandelier.
Well, that makes perfect sense now.
Yeah. We're learning from our viewers. I like this. It shows that we are only human and there is only so much that we do know.
Cluster McClusty face.
It will get named one soon. All right, so
Stand up
Michael,
all
tell
night.
us a little bit about this comet, will you?
It's comet time.
Get
Hey,
back on track now.
Oh, I can go and get a beer now, can't I? Over to you, Michael.
it's rest time for you guys. You could let me have a chat for a brief couple of minutes about comet 6P D'Arrest. So this object was discovered in 1851.
So was this the same dude that discovered Neptune with Gale?
Oh, geez, you got me there, mate. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Probably,
I think it
probably
was. He was Gale's assistant at Berlin Observatory.
Oh, sweet. That's very good. So it's basically got an orbital period of 6.5 years. It's one of the Jupiter family comets in a 2-to-1 resonance with Jupiter, and it's the 6th periodic comet. So it's one of the oldest known. It's the 20th observed return, and it was closest to the Sun on September the 17th at about 1.35 astronomical units. So it's just a bit further away than the Earth is to the Sun. But it's got a very unusual light curve, and then it peaks. It's at its brightest some 2 months after it reaches its perihelion point, and this is typical of quite a lot of the short period comets. So it's actually at its brightest right now. So I estimated about 10.4 in a large binoculars last week. I haven't made any measurements tonight because I'm looking at a bright computer screen, but it looks quite impressive at the moment. It's in the constellation of Microscopium, and pretty much it's pretty much at its brightest. It's got an unusual looking coma. It's got like a fan-shaped coma to it, so it's not central or circular.
And there's a little galaxy below it, Michael.
Yeah, there's a little galaxy hiding there, isn't there?
There is indeed.
Well picked up, Perry.
And another one. There's quite a few. This is actually a 10-minute stack, by the way. It's using the C11 RASA and the 6D.
Yeah, there is a lot of little fuzzies in there. A lot of little faint fuzzies in there.
Yep.
But that one's quite prominent just below it, isn't it?
Despite that, it's probably extremely faint. It's probably 14th, 15th magnitude. A PGC galaxy.
Just for the uninitiated, for anyone that's not quite up to speed with what we actually mean when we say magnitudes, under perfect skies, the limit for human eyes is about magnitude 6. So when Michael is saying magnitude, what did you say, 14th or something for that galaxy, that would be extremely faint. So the brightest stars, if you can imagine, being magnitude 1, then going backwards or going forward to magnitude 6 being the limit of visibility. From the city, perhaps magnitude 4 is the limit. A dark sky site, maybe magnitude 6. And then to go to magnitude 14, that is a huge drop.
So we actually did have a question earlier. So you pretty much answered that question earlier about magnitudes and how they work. So
yes, and it's an exponential sort of scale.
So just before we move on to the next object, Michael, you said you took Swan Nebula from Swan Hill. Well, David Fisher has now been challenged to get Swan Nebula from Swan Reach. And David, if you can take that image, we would love for you to send it in to us. That would be wonderful. I
would have thought David Fisher may have got that image from Fish Creek.
Oh, I like that one. Is there a fish nebula? We need a fish nebula by David Fisher.
Well,
from Fish
no,
Creek.
no,
Definitely got
but
a good counter meal from Fish Creek Pub.
there's some galaxies in Pisces, the fish.
Ah, there we go. So, David, not only do you have to do Swan Nebula from Swan Reach, you have to do a galaxy from Pisces by David Fisher. And if you can send
From
that
Fish Creek.
from Fish Creek, if you can. Nothing but a good challenge, eh? So now, Perry, you were talking about M22 before, and Anne-Marie has a image of M22 she's just been working on.
Oh,
which we've
good.
Right here, right now, and it's absolutely stunning as usual.
Yep. Great work there, Anne-Marie. Excellent. And immediately, even to a casual observer, you can see that it's quite a bit larger and brighter than what the chandelier was. So I suppose what it means is, in the first instance, that it's quite a bit closer than the chandelier. Now, off the top of my head, I don't know, but I imagine it's probably about 14 or 15,000 light years, just judging by the size. Does anyone have the distance?
I do. It's about 10,000 light years, according
Okay.
to Sky Safari.
Yep.
I can't add anything.
What you
to
can
that.
also
The only
see
thing
in
I know
the,
about- I was just going to say
What's
the
also-
only thing I know about the M22 is it's the M22 Locust, and it's an American tank from the Second World War. I can't add
What you
much
can-
else to that, unfortunately.
This is, as I was saying, it's in Sagittarius, close to the lid of the teapot. In that band of the Milky Way, just look how many stars you can see in that image that Anne-Marie has taken. It's absolutely flooded with stars.
Well, we're looking towards the centre of the Milky Way when we look at Sagittarius. So consequently, there's just an overflowing screen of stars. Sometimes it's difficult to understand how many stars there are out there. Of course, there's always Carl Sagan's quote of there are more stars in the universe than all the grains of sand on all the beaches of planet Earth. But in our own galaxy, the Milky Way, which is about approximately 100,000 light years in diameter, there's probably about 200 or 300 billion stars. Now, to get a gauge of the size of the Milky Way, let's pretend that we can shrink our solar system down to the size of a 10-cent piece. So if we can make it into a 10-cent coin from the sun being at the center all the way to the outer planets, if we then shrunk the Milky Way galaxy to the same scale, then the diameter of the Milky Way would go from Sydney all the way over to Perth.
Far out. The sheer distances are absolutely mind-boggling. when you think about
Not
it.
astronomical, Mark?
Astronomically mind-boggling. There we go. So on that note, we're going to jump across to our first galaxy for the night, which is NGC 300. And Robert from South Australia is stacking at the moment, and he's doing some images of NGC 300, otherwise known as the Southern Pinwheel Galaxy.
and some strong spiral arms there that we can see emanating from the core. I can spot 3 immediately. Good shot there, Robert. Thank you.
I'm not sure how long that exposure is or how many have been stacked. So if we could find out, Kim, how many stacks that is from what we've got at the moment, that'd be great.
I'll let you know in a minute.
So there you go. Robert's just popped it in the chat. It's 6 3-minute exposures. So that's a 9 minutes worth of imaging of NGC 300 that we've got there. So, Steve, you got anything on NGC 300?
I've got a few things, yeah. So this is one of the closest galaxies to our local group of galaxies. So it's sort of just beyond the local group, but nearer than the Sculptor group, which, if we're following the sequence, we'll actually be looking at Sculptor galaxy, which is in the Sculptor group. So it's only about 6 million light years away, says he.
Only 6 million.
Talking about scale. So sort of sits between the. It's supposed to be about 94,000 light years in diameter. So similar sort of scale to the Milky Way. Similar sort of size. It's a lovely object. Has it got a hint of a bar in it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Steve. I was just thinking the same thing myself. Yeah.
You look at that faint star right in the middle.
Yeah.
And run across from 2 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
That isn't a star right in the middle there, Mark. It's the core.
It's not actually. It's the core. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got that one wrong. I'll take that one.
In fact, for people looking at galaxies for the first time, especially with smaller telescopes, usually, especially from the city, even with an 8-inch, all you normally see is that core, that star-like core. You very seldom, almost never see the arms or the disk of the galaxy that goes with it from the city. So all you're seeing is the core most of the time. And you're right, Mark, it actually does look like a star, a faint star.
Force of habit. You see a dot in the middle and you go, oh, it's a star. I should know better by now, but I'm a slow learner. But it's quite an impressive project. Object, quite an impressive image. I think we're going to jump to the next one now, which Noel's got, which is NGC 253, the Sculptor Galaxy. And
that's not it.
No, this is not it. We're getting there. And we're going to jump across. And Noel said, I have a sculptor coming along.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go. Now, Noel, before we start talking about this, can you tell us how many images this is, how many stacks?
Yep, we're looking at 30-second subs, and I've got 13 images coming through. So looking at 6 minutes of exposure here so far, and they're still coming through.
Beautiful. Take it away, guys.
Lovely object.
Yeah.
Fills the eyepiece generally. The other thing, and I think Noel has captured it beautifully here, one or two things actually. One is the mottled appearance of the dust around the disk of the galaxy. So you can see it as sort of dark mottled lanes that appear there. And they are pretty much the same sort of thing as what we see when we look at the Southern Cross and spot the coal sack, the head of the Aboriginal constellation, the Emu. So that's a fabulous image there that Noel has captured. Good work, Noel. And the other thing, I kind of always think there's a bit of a bar in NGC 253. What are your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I can see what you mean. So the centre looks to be sort of elongated, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In a sort of a northwest, southeast kind of a direction. Well, but slightly tilted off. I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yep.
The thing that also stands out in Noel's image here is round the perimeter in the arms. You can see quite a few of these bluish patches, which, because the Sculptor galaxy is now called a starburst galaxy. So there's a massive amount of star formation going on, and it's typically happening in these blue areas around the edges. So this is one of my favourite objects. It's just such a huge object in the eyepiece as well, and you can't see this level of mottling, but you can see quite a lot of mottling visually through a 10 or a 12-inch telescope. It's a great view. It's pretty close. So this is in the Sculptor group. So it's a little bit further out than NGC 300, which was what we were looking at before. So it's about 11 million light years away, which again, so I'm going to say it's really quite a close galaxy, but 11 million light years. These are not round the corner, really, are they?
Yeah, and it's pretty large.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yep. Now, whilst we're in this area, and it would make a really good comparison if anyone is able to pull up NGC 288, which is only about a degree away from NGC 253 there, the silver coin. And we can all see why it's called a silver coin, or the silver coin galaxy, when we look at this image. But NGC 288 is a globular cluster, but much looser and quite a bit fainter than the ones we saw earlier, and makes for an interesting comparison, just a degree or so away from this particular galaxy there.
So Noel, I'm going to throw that one over to you to do just quickly, because I know Kim's got an object for us to look at, and we might pop back and have a quick peek at that.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Kim's got a series of nebula in the small Magellanic Cloud there, which we're just going to pop up on the screen, and I'll just get Kim to tell us a little bit about what he's imaging at the moment before Steve and Perry take over and give us some more detailed info.
Yeah, hi. So this is just an exposure. These are 60-second stacks of one part of the Magellanic Cloud, the small Magellanic Cloud, which is a companion dwarf galaxy of our Milky Way. It's about 200,000 or so light years away. And I'm shooting it tonight with a small refractor, which has quite a large field of view. It's about 1.5 degrees square, which is about 3 moon diameters square. And I have on there a hydrogen alpha oxygen 3 filter, which brings out all the nebulae in the neighbouring galaxy. So in the same way that we can see nebulae that we've seen tonight, like M16, the Trifid, Lagoon, in our galaxy, the Milky Way, we're looking here at nebulae in a companion galaxy next door to ours, 200,000 or so light years away. And if I zoom in there a little bit, you can start to make out some of the stars and all the incredible different types of nebulae scattered across that field of view. So I thought I'd share that tonight. It's something that's quite unique, particularly to the Southern Hemisphere. People in the Northern Hemisphere don't see this at all. And with a H-alpha filter and O3, you can get quite an interesting arrangement and pattern of nebulae in our neighbouring galaxy, the Small Magellanic Cloud.
I'm not going to add any more detail to that, Kim, other than to say I really like these wide field views that you have with the refractor that you've got. It's a nice sort of contrast to the more focused views that we've had with some of the other scopes. It's great that we're looking at different ways of seeing things.
Yeah, so it's just a 90mm refractor. It's computer controlled. I'm running it off an iPad. I tap the screen, you see the controls. And it's all Wi-Fi controlled as well, which is wonderful. I normally sit inside, but today I'm outside at Stockport.
There's no inside up at Stockport, is there?
There is, but I need to share our connection to the internet, which I'm doing with my phone.
There we go.
With Robert and others, so that's why I'm out here tonight. All right.
That's a great image, Kim. Is that NGC 362 up at the top there, or?
I get quite lost in this area. I zoomed in on 249, and 362 is definitely nearby, but it's you need to look at some sort of reference.
Yeah, I think that's it at the top there, just in the top.
Yep, and of course, 47 Tucanae is not far away as well.
That's right,
on
not too far away.
The other side.
Yep, yeah. And 346 is on the other side. That's quite a bright, comes up quite bluish green on this scope with this filter. Yeah. Anyhow, I thought I'd share that tonight. That's quite unique and different.
It's lovely.
It's beautiful to see something that's not the normal thing, not the sort of normal thing we would share. Now, before you go, Kim, we have a question. Yeah. What's the focal length for this? So what are you using equipment-wise to do this image, to share this image with us?
This is a small refractor. It's a 90mm objective. The focal length is about 400mm. It's got a reducer on it that brings it down to 405. So 405 or thereabouts millimeters in focal length. It's a Takahashi refractor, which has exquisite optics, I might add. I've looked through it visually only once, and since then it's had a camera on the back end. It's ASI 533 MC Pro camera, single shot color camera, and that's what I'm shooting with here tonight, just a whole bunch of 60-second exposures. You can see the countdown there. It's taking another image, and so far we have about 18 of these stacked, and another one's on its way.
It's a very nice image, that's for sure. Now we're just trying to get the next lot of objects up. So we might stick with this one just for a little bit longer while we wait for NGC 6752 to come up. And Noel's heading there now, so we might jump across and watch live as Noel slews across and starts to image NGC 6752, which is a globular cluster, Parvo globular cluster, or the windmill, or the starfish.
This is probably my favourite after Omega Centauri and 47 Tucanae. It's a fantastic globular.
Yes, it's the fourth brightest. So you mentioned the two brightest there, and then we've actually looked at the third brightest, which is M22. This is the fourth brightest globular cluster.
Yep. It's easy to see the individual stars in this because there's a lot of outliers that are easy to discern. Keep in mind, everyone, that for people in the Northern Hemisphere, their best globular cluster is in the constellation Hercules, and it's M13. Now, in the Southern Hemisphere, we've got probably 5 globular clusters that are better than M13. So when a lot of northerners, especially a lot of Americans, came down south to Australia to see Halley's Comet in 1986, whenever they had a look at, say, Omega Centauri, it all of a sudden became a religious experience for them, because they would look through the eyepiece and say, oh my God. They'd never seen a globular like Omega Centauri, because all they'd ever seen before was the great Hercules cluster, and that's nothing.
So this one's supposed to contain, they think, several 100,000 stars. So I don't think it's up to the million, but several 100,000. It's a little bit of a sort of wet finger in the air with counting stars in globular clusters. And the numbers over the years seem to go up. Perry, I can remember when I joined the ASV back in 2007, I think it was thought that there were about, something approaching 1 million stars in Omega Centauri, and now we're up to what, 5 million? Something like that. So the numbers kind of go up as time goes on. It's an interesting thing, but several 100,000 stars in there.
What happens, I think, Steve, and it's not just with Omega Centauri, but generally what I've noticed over the years is that whenever new telescopes, new techniques, new computer modeling, or computing powers that double and triple, etc., whenever those sorts of things occur, we appear to make more discoveries and new objects appear, and we also get different perspectives on old familiar objects that we can now process in a much more confident manner. Sorry, I was just going to say, in much the same vein of thought, 30 years ago, we used to say that the Andromeda Galaxy was almost 1.5 to 2 million light years away. We now say it's 2.5.
Yeah. So the other thing about that one, when you talk about berries, was it less than 100 years ago we were calling the Andromeda Galaxy the Andromeda Nebula?
Yeah, because they didn't know that these were galaxies in their own right. They thought they were nebulae. Yep.
So we are evolving, obviously, as we get better technology, better equipment, spend more time on these, and we're gathering more and more information and learning more and more about each of these objects that we've been looking at for so long.
Another interesting thing with globular cluster, some of the other objects that we've been looking at, those Emission nebulae, we were looking at, sort of the Eagle Nebula and the Swan Nebula, which are areas of where new stars are forming. And indeed in the NGC 253, those blue areas that you could see were star-forming areas. Globular clusters are sort of at the other end of the scale. So these are very, very ancient objects. So typically, the globular clusters that hang around the edge of the Milky Way are going to be over 12 billion years old. So they're very, very ancient objects.
One of the things that somebody asked a question earlier, Mark, and I'm not sure that perhaps you had a look before I joined this evening, but I don't know whether you've noticed the T-shirt I'm wearing tonight.
Yeah, that is Helix, is it not?
Yes, the Helix Nebula, and I've got to say that this is a DIY T-shirt.
It's a pretty good
Yes,
DIY T-shirt.
do it yourself. Difficult as it may be to believe, ladies and gentlemen, I actually bought this myself. But what I wondered is whether we may be able to get a look at the Helix, because that's the brightest and nearest of them, and may give people an idea of the process that's involved in the creation of planetary nebulae, because we may be able to see the progenitor star in the centre.
We can give it a shot. So we'll put the call out to the guys imaging at the moment. If one of them can jump over to Helix, if they've got it in their field of view. At the moment, I know Noel does not. But while we're waiting to see if we can do that, I will say this is the last of the globs. We're now on to the remaining objects are Galaxies and Nebula, of which Helix is one. So we'll see what we can do. That's for sure. But while we're waiting, we're going to jump over to Rob's stream. And Rob has got for us NGC 6744.
So
also in Parvo?
Parvo. So this is the other. I always think of Parvo as having two really nice objects in it. One is the globular cluster that we've just looked at, and then this galaxy as well. But Perry, over to you.
Well, I like to think there's a third beautiful object in there, Steve. Keep in mind that Parvo is a peacock and they have magnificent tails.
Okay, I want to know about this tail thing. What are we talking about?
The eye and a peacock's tail.
That's all, Mark.
There we go. We'll leave that one alone. We'll leave that one alone.
Just bad stand-up.
Bad stand-up. Oh, Rob, where did it go?
Do you want a few details?
As Andy said in the chat, Parvo is bad for dogs. It is. It's a virus.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There we go. We've got it back.
Just a few little facts here. It's a galaxy. It's a face on spiral galaxy. Again, I think I can see a little bit of a bar in there.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
30 million light years away, so not too far away as galaxies go. It's a pretty bright one, which is, I could definitely see that when we lived out near Doreen, I could see this through my 10-inch scope back in 10 years ago. Not sure I'd do it now. It's the brightest galaxy in Parvo, and apparently it's got a similar structure to the Milky Way. So if that's the case, then it will definitely have a bar. I think you can see the bar seems to be sort of vertical in that image.
Yeah, bit elongated.
Now, apparently, and I suspect I may be able to see it.
Bit of an S shape.
Yeah. There's supposed to be some companion galaxies similar to the Magellanic Clouds around it. I think in the lower left.
There's one up.
I was going to say at the top right at about 2 o'clock. Yeah,
2
there's
o'clock
one,
position.
definitely one there.
Yeah, can you see lower left as well?
Yeah, the bottom left at about 7 or 8 o'clock, roughly. There's one very close as well, but there's definitely one at 2 o'clock, as Perry noted.
Yes, I can see those. Yeah.
Mm. And then there is that other one that's sort of around about 7:30-ish on the clock there. It's a very faint one. You can just see it off the edge.
Yeah, it's interesting as well as as Noel stacks more of the subs, you start to see more of the structure in the spiral arms, That's coming up quite nice now.
Yeah.
So this is from Rob in.
Oh, sorry, it's Rob. Sorry,
Robert over in South
Rob.
Australia there. Beautiful image, and I know Michael. Michael's had one as well, which we've been jumping it back across to as well. So Michael's got a bit more colour.
And it's the other way up.
It is. It's upside down, upside down, upside down. That's better. Now it matches. And you can definitely see that one at 2 o'clock and the other one down there at sort of like 8 o'clock as well. Yeah. And there's also another one probably closer to 1 o'clock as well, about the same distance out. It's about, yeah, right in the middle there. So you can just see it. And I think it's probably better in Rob's image. But if you have a look at Rob's image there, and if you look at sort of, there's a little group of stars sort of at about 1 o'clock, about the same distance out as that one at 8 o'clock. There's a little faint fuzzy just sort of sitting there, sitting in amongst this.
Oh, I think I see where you mean.
Yeah, it's very small, but I can just make it out. But it's definitely there. And then I've just picked up it. There's a lot in there. I can now see another 2 on top of that. So there's probably about 5 or 6 that I can see in this image myself right now of little faint fuzzy globular, little faint fuzzy galaxies.
Keep in mind though that some of them may just be background galaxies a greater distance away as well.
Absolutely, but the fact that we can see them live stacked is quite amazing. That we're getting these live. Yeah. We're going to jump across to the next object, which is M33, the Triangulum Galaxy. And actually, no, before we do that, I think Noel mentioned that he has something we could probably jump across to, which Perry was talking about on his T-shirt. And I've got to say, for something that you've just jumped across to and stacked, here we go. How many images is that, Noel?
That's only 4 30 seconds.
Wow. So that's 2 minutes worth of exposures so far.
Okay, so if we look at this object now and relate it to planetary nebulae, you can see near the center is a star, and it's likely that that is the source of all of that gas having pushed out the outer layers of its atmosphere. And the reason it kind of looks a bit like a circle, if you like, or the helix effect, is because not all of it has been pushed out at the same time. There are some parts of that particular star's atmosphere have been pushed out earlier than others to give that sort of screw-like effect. That's a great image, Noel, for
2 minutes.
Such a quick view.
Yeah.
Also, there's some little background galaxies that can be perceived through this nebulosity as well. If you look at that bright star up at the top of, that one, if we can zoom in on that one a bit, you will see just under
below
it. Just below it is.
Yeah, there it is there.
Yep.
Wow.
Hang on, Jove.
Oh, the cat wants out again.
No, it's coming back in.
Coming back
actually.
in. He's been out. He's been out. I should realise it's 11:15. It's time for him to come back in.
Past his bedtime.
All right, so we might jump across to now the next object, Triangulum Galaxy. which Anne-Marie and Andy have been imaging quite nicely. And Anne-Marie, how many images is this? So we've got 6. And how long are your exposures?
6. These are 2-minute exposures.
So this is
So
12 minutes worth. Yeah. Wow. Wow. So that's 12 minutes worth of imaging on Triangulum Galaxy. That's amazing.
One of the things about the Triangulum is that from the northern hemisphere, if you've got good eyes, it's the faintest object, or the farthest object, if you like, that you can see with naked eye. Now, I've tried it a few times from our dark sky site, and also from Vic South at the Little Desert Lodge, without success. Perhaps younger people in their teens and 20s may have better luck from the southern hemisphere, because for us it doesn't rise very far above the horizon, and there's what we call atmospheric extinction that occurs as you get closer to the horizon, where you're looking through a thicker and thicker layer of atmosphere, and that extinguishes some of the brightness of the objects that you're looking at, including stars, galaxies, nebulae, and the like. So if you find yourself in the northern hemisphere and this object is up, see if you can spot it with naked eye. If not, try binoculars. You should be able to make it out as a very soft haze.
So obviously, if we were at nil tonight, that's what we would be trying to be doing right now. But unfortunately, we're not there tonight. I mean, we're very close when you think about it. We've come out of lockdown, on Friday? I reckon if we had to come out of lockdown 2 weeks beforehand, we'd all be up at nil right now. And this live stream wouldn't actually be happening in the way that it's happening. So those of you who are watching us now, be thankful that we were in lockdown for an extra couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd all be enjoying ourselves up at nil now, doing the Vic South Live. But this is quite a stunning image, really, for 8 stacks. So this is 16 minutes worth of exposures.
Yeah. And that arm structure is improving. You can see each time there's another stack comes on. Really
well, that's
good.
not a stack. That's Andy at the Little Desert Nature Lodge earlier this week, teasing the rest of us because he was able to drive out there because he lives near there. So we're waiting on Andy to get the next image up, which is going to be a cracker. So
I'm 31. So
yeah,
I'll link the two together, really. So obviously, this is part of the family. So M33 is part of our local group. I think it's the 3rd largest of the local group galaxies. So the Andromeda Galaxy, which we'll be looking at next, I think, is the largest.
It is. Have you got any more on this one, on M33?
Yeah. One of there's a lot of research. I was just doing a bit of Googling and reading online yesterday, and the current thing, there's a stream of hydrogen gas linking M33, which is this, with M31, the Andromeda Galaxy. And so the current thinking now is that this Triangulum Galaxy is a sort of a satellite of the larger Andromeda Galaxy. And this stream that they discovered, they think related to an interaction that occurred between M33 and M31 between, it's a fair gap here, 2 and 8 billion years ago.
It's a rough estimate.
Yeah. But then in about 2.5 billion years, so 2.5 billion years in the future, there's likely to be an even more dramatic encounter between M33 here and M31. And as we probably know, we're going to have fairly dramatic encounters between the Andromeda Galaxy and our own Milky Way galaxy at some point in the future, perhaps something like 4 billion years in the future. Whether the encounter that occurs with M33 and M31 leaves this galaxy M33 relatively intact, I'm not sure, but I think the thinking with M31 and the Milky Way is that they'll eventually be they'll come together into probably a large elliptical galaxy. But we'll be well gone by that.
I'm a little bit disappointed about that, Steve, because I always felt that the Andromeda Galaxy only wanted to get close to us. And now you're telling me it's also got another lover?
What's a three-way?
What the hell?
It's greedy.
I feel a bit jilted, you know.
It's greedy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
The Andromeda Galaxy is a greedy bastard. That's what it is.
Perhaps I won't say it's all part of the family then. That's a little bit incestuous, really, isn't it?
One is not enough. I need two. We're just waiting on Andy to get his first stack up of the Andromeda. And it's only because he went and chopped trees down that we're able to do this as well as we can do this. So Andromeda's
I've got another really useless fact that I read up.
Throw it out there. We like useless facts.
I was saying earlier on that the globular clusters that surround the Milky Way galaxy are all really ancient objects. There are apparently 54 confirmed globular clusters around this galaxy, around M33, but they are several billion years younger than those found in the Milky Way. That's your useless fact for the night.
Some of the thinking in the last few years that I've read about is that globular clusters appear in some cases to have been smaller galaxies that have been cannibalized by the major galaxy in the group, where all of their gas and dust has been siphoned away to leave just the core of the galaxies remaining.
And Omega Centauri, I suppose, is the most likely of those, isn't it?
Yep. Because it kind of makes sense in a way. I'm not sure who came up with this particular theory in the first instance, but it's difficult to, I've only got a little brain, and bigger brains than mine have been applied to this particular question. But there aren't a lot of theories of the formation of globular clusters that are as good as being galaxies and having everything siphoned away except the core. And that's what we're seeing.
Here we go. That's the first stack. Now, we're not going to see all of it, obviously. Who's in it, actually? It's a fair bit, actually, of Andromeda there. Yeah. That's the first stack from Andy's tree chopped down view.
Yeah, and that's 120 or 2 minutes, just a 2 minute exposure. yeah, so I've got just another one coming very shortly into it.
So
It's probably,
we're talking 12 degrees above the horizon, aren't we?
yeah, it's probably a bit lower right now. It's probably 11, I think. I'll just have a quick look. Where are we?
So
We
it's
are.
pretty low.
Andy, could I ask a different question? Is your field of view about 1.5 to 2 degrees in diameter?
Yeah. I just put my.
You say that convincingly, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Look, I'm hopeless in degrees. I'm just looking at how big my sensor is over. Yeah, it's probably. One and a bit degrees, I think. Yeah. Looking over it now, I'm just sort of looking at my overlay sensor over Stellarium, but it's got to be rotated, of course. That's my sensor.
So it's about a degree. Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen out there, that if when you're looking at the moon, the diameter of the full moon is half a degree. So what we're seeing there from bottom to top or top to bottom is 2 moon diameters put together. So it's a pretty large object.
Yeah, you can see this with the eyes. It's that bright here. I mean, if I went out of my tent now and just probably waited 5 minutes, I'd probably start to see a bit of a fuzzy patch to the north. I've got no towns or anything to the north, so, but I do have trees here, so, but it's a good binocular view.
I thought you chopped the trees down.
Well, I've chopped a hole in it. I've still kept it's our orchard, so I'm not really chopping too many down, otherwise I'll get in trouble.
So for those listening in, Andy's near the South Australian border, so he doesn't really have light pollution issues like the rest of us do, which is why when he says he can step out of the tent and take a few minutes and he can see this as a faint, fuzzy sort of object visually, that's why he can see it.
Mark, right now I can see how many galaxies with my eyes. I can see this one. I can see the LMC, the SMC, and the Milky Way. So I can see 4 galaxies quite clearly.
Without trying.
Yeah. It'd be the same as at Dark Sky Side or Nil, and probably at Stockport. Stockport, we've got a really clear view to the north as well.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Andy again flexing with his Border 1 skies, and that's bang on.
Well,
like,
Andy,
I've got Border 1. I'll throw it out there.
Andy, I'm more impressed with the fact that you weren't prepared to kill a tree for astronomy. That shows good conviction to Mother Earth and nature.
Yeah.
Well, it was a kill a tree for astronomy.
Yeah, I'll bulldoze anything. No,
unless it's your own orchard, then you're selfish.
I've cut a hole in the tree and trimmed it off, and it's probably going to do better. It's a apple tree, so just taking the top off, it'll be fine.
All right, I think we might be able to move across to the next object.
Yeah.
Unless, Steve, you've got anything you'd like to add?
I could talk for quite a while about M31. I'm just mindful that we've got quite a lot of objects still in the list.
We've got another 7 or 8 to go. I'm good to continue if everyone else is. So we'll jump across the next one.
Don't forget to mention the 2 satellite galaxies as well.
Yeah, you can see both of those there.
M32 and M110.
So when you say satellite galaxies, Perry, what do you mean by that?
Like the Magellanic Clouds, they they orbit M31 the same way that the Magellanic Clouds orbit the Milky Way.
It's interesting as well that Charles, bless his cotton socks, Charles Messier, he saw M31, obviously, and the little blobby one off to the right, which is M32, he saw that one, as you can guess from the catalogue number, pretty around the same time. But he didn't actually catalogue the M110 at the same time. He made a few notes about it and sort of suggested that he'd seen something. And then the numbers in the catalogue that are sort of over 100 were added in to the Messier catalogue well after Charles had sort of popped his clogs. I'm not sure, fairly recently I think they were added to the catalogue. So M110, which is the galaxy over on the left there, is one of these ones that Charles made a few notes about, and then it was decided to add an additional 10 objects to Charles's catalogue. So what we know for sure is that these definitely are not comets. Sorry, Michael.
All right, let's jump across to the next object, which is NGC 772. And this is coming in live from Stockport in Adelaide.
Not Stockport, Manchester.
No, no one cares about England, do they?
That's a shame. It would be. It
will
be raining
anyway. So here we go. NGC 772. Take it away, guys.
Well, I've never seen this object before, so I pass.
Well, I haven't seen it either before, but I did a bit of, because it was on the list, I thought I'll do a little bit of research on it. This is called the Fiddlehead Galaxy. And isn't it a beautiful shape? That's the first comment.
It's very different, isn't it? The top part looks very swept.
Top wispy bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's very swept compared to the bottom part, isn't it?
It's an unbarred spiral galaxy in the constellation Aries, and it's magnitude 9.8, so it's fairly readily visible in a medium-sized telescope.
No, it isn't, Steve. I've gone over that area in great detail and have never spotted it.
It's quite a long way away, though, 120 million light years away. The other interesting thing is, we were talking about the Milky Way galaxy being about 100,000 light years across. This object is estimated to be 200,000 light years in diameter. So it's twice the size of the Milky Way galaxy. And apparently it's we might be able to spot some of these. There are quite a few satellite galaxies around it as well.
Yep, easy to see, actually. You can
over to the left, you can see one, can't you?
Yep, left, bottom, to the right as well.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Wow, there's quite a lot there, isn't there? It's quite a nice image.
So there's one of them is an NGC object, NGC 770, and that's a dwarf elliptical.
That's the one below it at the 5 o'clock position.
Yeah.
I really like that object. I've never looked at that visually, but perhaps, Perry, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. We'd certainly be able to see it with the bigger scopes up at Heathcote.
Yeah, I would think so. But the reason I'm saying that it's going to be a bit of a challenge is because in that area, in fact, just above it is Mesothan, which is one of my favourite doubles. So I'm always going there, and it's only about a degree or so away. And I've never noticed anything else in that area. In fact, it's not even charted in my Nortons. So, yeah, I'd like to have a look at it.
I've been shooting this one over the last few nights, and I think tonight I should be able to finish it off. It's looking pretty good.
Can we share your screen? You on this one still, Anne-Marie, or?
No, I got off. It's very similar to this one, what it looks like.
Oh, okay. So you've
I've
jumped
moved on
to
to
the
the
next
next target.
object. Yep.
Actually, the next one's nice. Oh, I like this one.
All right. Well, let's keep moving through them, shall we? So the next one is M74, the Phantom Galaxy.
It's cute.
It's cute, apparently. According to Anne-Marie, it's cute. And it actually is cute.
It is.
Yeah.
I might have to work on this one too.
So anyone that's doing the Messier challenge of looking at all Charles's, the Messier 100 down here, this is supposed to be the most difficult one in terms of it being, it has a very low surface brightness.
It's not, Steve. I can guarantee it.
That's only 2 minutes.
The most difficult one is the little dumbbell in Perseus.
Oh, the one that's very low to the horizon.
Yep. That is magnitude 12 or very near magnitude 12, and it is a bloody struggle. You know, you have to go to the mat with that sucker and really fight it to get it. That was back in the 90s when we first got into the Messier 100 in a big way. We used to take trips up to Mildura and set up west of Mildura in the desert in order to be able to spot it at all, because in Melbourne it's on the horizon, but in Mildura at that latitude it's about 3.5–4 degrees above the horizon, and it's not easy. Tim Williams and myself have borrowed an 8-inch telescope from an ASV member called Margaret at the Little Desert Lodge maybe 6 years ago, and we took it all the way up to the northern fence overlooking the paddock next door, which is a wheat field, I think, and just above the lights of Nil, we managed to spot it in the 8-inch, but gee, it was difficult going. So this is considerably brighter. I would not accept whatever that reference is saying.
Perhaps it's for someone. I suspect what I'd read was somebody viewing objects from the Messier objects from the northern hemisphere, where the little dumbbell would not. You wouldn't have the same problem of it being down on the horizon.
Yeah, but it's still magnitude 12
yeah,
or
which
11.9.
Yeah. This is magnitude 9.0.
What's the magnitude of this? Sorry,
9.0.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's 3 magnitudes brighter.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be tough.
I'll let you know.
I've seen it, and it isn't tough. I can go back to my notes and refer to them.
Anne-Marie, just a quick question on your image. There's a sort of, I suppose you could call it a semicircular.
Yeah, I was just looking
I was going to ask
if
it was.
So maybe another coming up, or if there was a star. I'm not sure what that is. There's no bright stars around, and the moon's not coming up. So I don't know.
Very big.
Bit of cloud.
No, we've got no cloud.
Okay.
It's odd.
I've had that happen before.
It's really
Well, there's a line, but then there's also the circle.
There's 2 lines.
Could it be on your lens of the
Yeah,
telescope?
I was going to say, Anne-Marie, I've had it before when it was a bit of dew.
I've got dew heaters on
Very
at the
similar.
moment. It is quite damp out there, but it wasn't any on the last.
No, the last one was pretty clean, wasn't it?
So I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
mine was a
I'll move on to the
combination
next
of
one.
mine was a combination of dew and a light source, not like actually nearby, as opposed to.
Yeah, usually mine's just a bright star somewhere that upsets it. So.
So the next object, we just let's pad it out a bit somehow. But I will just say that with the next object, you might have to use the Force, Luke.
Are you going to play the music?
Dun, 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 dun,
You'll get copyrighted for that.
So we shouldn't. So when Rob's ready to share his screen, we can show you.
You can't copyright something sung as badly as that.
It was pretty bad, wasn't it?
Perry, a few months ago, Disney copyrighted me for streaming The Moon.
Yeah,
Just
legit,
the moon.
actually did. No music, no talking, just the moon.
Nothing,
and he got
just the moon.
copyrighted.
They own
So
everything, including
we're about
including badly hummed lyrics.
Yeah, what we're about to look at, once Rob's got it ready over in Stockport there in South Australia, is the Darth Vader's Starfighter, which ties in with my very bad humming of the tune and saying that, and Anne-Marie's nearly got Starfighter up as well. Oh my God, it's Victoria versus South Australia. Who will be the dark side and who's going to be the Rebel Alliance?
You've really built this one up for us, Mark. I hope
I have, and we're going to be poorly let down probably. No, I shouldn't say that because they're two very good astrophotographers.
Well, we got it a few weeks ago, but it was pretty bad.
Oh, no, see, now you're making it sound like it's going to look like crap, and it probably won't.
Do you want the boring information about it before we see?
Yeah, let's get some boring information about it while we wait, shall we?
It's a barred lenticular galaxy in the constellation Cetus.
All right,
you can see it. You can see it.
Before you continue, Steve, I don't know about you, but that actually does look like Darth Vader's Starfighter.
It does.
So
and you see the sort of wings on.
Once they've got it right.
Yeah.
Is it Darth Vader's Starfighter? Because his ship is sort of triangular, isn't it?
No, his is
the normal TIE fighters
sort of
are those
hexagonal.
ones with the flat ends, but his has got that curved shape, which this has got.
Yeah,
So
it's sort of semi-hexagonal.
Yeah, absolutely. This is much more like Darth Vader's Starfighter heading towards you as it's about to blow you up.
Yeah, he might take a while though because it's 60 million light years away.
Well,
only 60 million.
Yeah,
that's approaching dinosaur country.
It is, isn't it? But I will say that absolutely does look like it comes from a galaxy far, far away. Well played, Roboco.
Oh, that's one of Andy's followers, Twitch followers.
Yeah, who's now following us on Twitch. So that's wonderful.
Of course, William Herschel, who was pretty excited about things that looked like Uranus at the time, he thought it was a planetary nebula.
Well, of course he did.
Yeah,
What did he call it back then? He wouldn't have known of Darth Vader.
No,
he would have just given it a number.
It's a number, yeah.
What did he get number?
Herschel had a very distinctive way of numbering his objects where it was a number, say 11, and then to the side of it, it would have another number as well, and the two of them, I can't recall exactly which was which, but one of them inferred the brightness of the object, and the other the type of object that it was, to the best of his view at least. So something that was an open cluster would have one primary number and then a sort of sub number next to it. You can see it in old Norton's star atlases. There's quite a few objects that have his old numbering system. And in fact, it was his old numbering system that eventually became the NGC.
Well, that's interesting. So he's the reason we have the new general catalogue.
Yeah, but Draper combined Herschel's catalogue with another catalogue and called them the new general catalogue.
Wonderful. That's something I didn't know. I do know now. Here we go. Just off YouTube, the Starfighter could do hyperspace jump, so he'll be here soon. Watch out, guys. We're in a bit of trouble now. We will be here soon. So the next object we're jumping across to, and hopefully we can get something soon that's got a wider field view. Anne-Marie's trying to get it now. And because it's Halloween, we have to have some Halloween-themed objects. We had Dracula Cluster. We had Phantom Galaxy. We could throw Darth Vader's Starfighter Galaxy in there. We're going to hopefully jump across to the Witchhead Nebula. That's the next one. We're just waiting to see if we can get it. Oh, we've got Cloud. We've been attacked by Cloud. The clouds have spoiled the fun. What we
think it's going to be pretty hard anyway.
Control my image.
No, it's not real Cloud. It's just that because it takes up my whole. Have a look at the screen and you'll see what I mean.
All right, let's have a look at the screen.
It's all. It just looks like a big cloud, and it's not. It's actually the witch's head.
Looks like a whole lot of nebula.
Yeah, it's just the witch's head. It's just that I can only get a very small portion of it.
You've got the nose there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Perry, do you want to tell us a bit about the Witch's Head Nebula and the nose that we're looking at the moment then?
Yeah, but the nose is kind of in the middle, and the eyes off to the side. It's basically a reflection nebulosity, which is predominantly dust, and it's reflecting the nearby star Rigel. So it's not actually in Orion. It just makes it inside the border of Eridanus, and the beginning of the river of Eridanus, the star called Cursor, is right next to it as well. So it's sort of between Rigel and Cursor, Beta Eridani.
Steve, have you got anything else to... Oh, Steve's not there.
I'm here.
Oh, he's
Sorry.
back. He ran away.
Quick comfort break there.
Do you have anything else to add to the Witch's Head Nebula? We're looking at the nose of the Witch's Head Nebula just because we can't quite get that field.
Obviously, I missed a little bit of what Perry was saying there.
Let's jump across to
yeah.
There we are. There it is.
That's fantastic.
So this is not live now, I'm assuming. I'm pretty sure this is one of Michael's pre-imaged images. Would I be right, Mike?
Yeah, this is archival. Yes, correct.
It's an archival image. This is not live tonight, but it gives you a Marie
there, yep,
around there. But this is, I guess, a wider field view of it.
Yep. So where you've got the cursor is where the mouth is. Below that, the chin, and underneath is the hair that comes out from under her witch's hat.
It really is a Halloween one. When you look at it, though, it does actually look like the typical description of a witch, doesn't it? The big nose, the pointed chin, the long forehead.
Perry, did you mention that there's a theory that it's an ancient supernova remnant?
Yeah, it's difficult to sort of equate that with the complete bluish sort of colour that it has, because it could be because to give that bluish colour, it's sort of basically reflecting light. And when a supernova explodes, it does leave some dust behind. So, well, look, it could be.
Yeah, it's also apparently the theory is that the reflection is from light coming from Rigel.
Yeah.
Which, well, as we know, is a very bright, incredibly bright star.
Well, Rigel shines with about 57,000 times the luminosity of the sun.
Only 57,000 times, is that?
Yeah, so it's a blue supergiant.
Would that explain the and I'm going to sound like a 5-year-old child here, but would that explain the blue colour in that image that we're seeing?
No, that's actually done by Michael's Pastels. He's got a new set now, and
he's got a new set now.
Yeah, he's likes to use it.
Oh, that's a very, very good. And now he's even thrown the witch scream into it.
He's throwing everything into the cauldron.
He's absolutely throwing everything into it. So the next object is one of Michael's ones as well. So Michael's going to have a bit of a chat about Comet 19P or Comet Borrelli.
I shall. Yes.
Yeah, all for the Comet Man.
So it's the 19th periodic comet, discovered in 1904, and this is the 17th observed return. It's got an orbital period of 6.8 years. It's closest to the Sun on February the 1st at about 1.3 astronomical units. So by the time it gets there, it should brighten up to about magnitude 9 in January. But at the moment, it's about mag 11.5. And
So
situated in Grus. Very large binoculars at this point, but by January.
In January.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Did you say 6.5 year period, Michael?
Yeah, 6.8 actually, to be precise.
Now, Encke's comet is the shortest period. What's that, about
3.3?
3 years? 3 years.
3.3 exactly. Yep.
Yep.
That's pretty much it. It's got a reasonably bright core, and it's got a very unusual shape to it. The Deep Space One mission flew past it quite a while ago, and it was a very, very odd shape, like a bowling pin, about 8 kilometres across, very, very narrow. So yeah, these objects are, comets are very irregular in shape. But yeah, it doesn't have a lot of coma there, but the actual nucleus is quite active.
Right.
Beautiful shot.
This is only a few minutes, probably 3-minute stack. So it does show a little bit of a coma to the side, not as pronounced as 6P earlier tonight.
Beautiful.
Are we due for anything brighter than these over summer? The Christmas comet, for example.
So you're talking comet-wise. Sorry.
Yes. Well, you need to watch the replay of my talk this afternoon.
For those who didn't watch the talk, Michael, can you explain what you were talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. So basically we're going to get quite an impressive comet, hopefully, fingers crossed, in December, in a couple of months' time. it's going to approach the Earth very, very closely, and also the Sun quite closely. So fingers crossed it gets to naked eye visibility, and to be perfectly situated in the evening sky for us Southern Hemisphere folks.
What constellation?
Sagittarius through to Microscopium.
Oh, okay.
Yep, from December the 16th onwards.
Right. Sounds good.
Right. We're going to quickly jump across while we've got a couple of the guys stacking an object. Kim over in Adelaide, or South Australia, I should say, has got M45 for us live.
Beautiful. The 80s.
I'm looking up and it's just a few degrees above the horizon, above our tree line actually, and there you go. Some nebulosities coming out as well.
Yeah.
Yep, just below Merope there, or to the left of Merope.
It's a beautiful shot. Yeah.
So
the glow of those stars is quite amazing, isn't it?
Oh, the halos, the circular halos caused by the filter, I'm sure. But you can see the other, the haze, the nebulosity.
Yeah, just start to see it. Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. I know it was not on our list tonight, but we're waiting on we've got a couple of guys who are looking at the next object, and I've just seen we've got it up. So we just thought we'd jump across to that one. That Kim had that one going nicely, so I thought we'd jump over there and have a peek at it. Steve, do you have anything you want to say about the Pleiades before we move across to the next object?
Not really. I always think of it as we come into the sort of late spring, summer time. You know, you've got the Pleiades and the Hyades, and then moving on up to Orion, which
is our next object.
It's a wonderful sight. It's a great time of the year.
It is. So let's jump across from that. As awesome as that looks, we're going to jump across from that to M42 Orion Nebula. So this is live from Andy's equipment over near the South Australian border there in Victoria. And Andy, how many stacks have you got going there at the moment?
There's just 4 1 minute stacks.
So 4 minutes happening there.
Yeah, the last one came a bit weird. Something happened. I don't know. It's gone.
Chop the top off it.
Yeah, really annoying. Like, I don't know what happened there. But just these are the images. That's a single 1 minute. But that's a
keeps chopping the top off it on you.
Yeah, just hopefully. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
While you deal with that, I'm going to throw it to Steve and Perry to have a chat about M42 Orion Nebula.
Sure. Well, this is as I would expect, virtually everyone on the call will know the Orion Nebula. It's visible to the naked eye in a reasonably dark, probably dark suburbs. I would think you would be able to see it reasonably well to the naked eye. The interesting thing when we start to look at it photographically is that one of the bits I like looking at in the Orion Nebula is the trapezium, which is 4 of the stars in the core, and they always get washed out. You can see them there in that. So that's a sort of a bonus, if you like, of visual observing. Is the trapezium it really stands out very well, and if you've got a good telescope and it's a very clear night and you've got good seeing, you can see not just the 4 stars that make up the trapezium, but relatively easily the 5th star, and if it's very good, the 6th star. So or always a good test, I think. But so the M42, it's it's primarily an emission nebula, but there's also a bit of reflection nebula built into it as well. It's 1,344 light years away at the last count.
No, that's not right. It's 1,343. I mean, who can get so exact? I am staggered by that figure, Steve. Where did you get that?
So it's interesting because most of the nebulae that sit in as part of this Orion molecular cloud complex, which is the objects that we're going to be looking at, I think, for the rest of the evening, actually. Everyone says, oh, they're about 1,500 light years away. And then they come up with this really exact figure for the Orion Nebula, which is in roughly the same area of space.
Yeah, it's difficult to believe. One of the other things for anybody doing their Messier 100, we talk about Messier 42, but can you also just point out Messier 43, please, Steve?
I know where it is.
I can't, but whoever
can. Who's got a pointer?
It's a little peacocky looking bit underneath the main part of M42.
It looks a bit like a quotation mark.
Yeah,
or a comma.
It does. Absolutely. It looks like a bit of a quotation. That's M43.
Yep.
So M42 is the part on the other side of that, and M43 is the quotation mark.
Yep.
Here we go. Let's have another quick look. This is a live stack from Adelaide of M42.
So this is the normal way up that you would see the Orion Nebula with M43 towards the top.
The normal way up.
That is not the normal way, Steve. Come on.
I think any direction is the normal way up, isn't it? I like it the other way around, personally. So
this is
Lee.
I'm looking at it my way, the normal way
Lee,
up.
who
Because
has been buried in cloud in Cloudwood, otherwise formerly known as Ringwood, has given us a close up of M43. So it is.
So maybe there's a bit of reflectivity going on right there with that bluish colour. That's excellent. Good job, Lee.
Thank you.
And if you pull out a little bit, it becomes easier to see what's referred to as the bat wings.
Let's go back. Let's go back there. Well, where did we go?
Up top.
There we go. We'll jump back to this one.
So the different parts of the nebulosity have traditional names, if you like, that go back a long time. Where the trapezium is, that darker bay is referred to as the fish mouth, because if you can look at it from right to left, with the tail being at the at the right, and the mouth being to the left, it appeared that way to somebody in the long gone distant past, but also from that area there is what appears to be wings sprouting out, and in that particular view with the purple or the pinkish, it becomes more prominent, and they're called the bat wings.
Yeah, I think that's a very good description of that, Perry.
Now, when you say it's the right way up and right way down, right, I'm looking at Stellarium, and I look with my binoculars, and this is the way I see it. So if you can look at Stellarium right now,
Oh, I've actually got it live now too.
Yeah. So that's the way it sees, Stellarium sees it, and I zoom out, and
Yep.
there's my eastern horizon. So it depends if it's flipped over and it's in the western horizon, of course it's going to be looking upside down. Well,
usually though, Andy, it's because of the optical configuration of the telescope.
you see it upside down, correct?
Yeah.
Well, my image is correct then, because this is my image.
Your image is
Well,
correct.
And it's reflective, but I've
every way is correct.
Yeah. I think what I've done, my reflector, so I've got 2 mirrors plus my camera's upside down, so that's why it's good.
Every which way but loose. Let's move on to the third last object for the night.
I finally got it stacking now too.
Yeah, well, you can jump across to the. Oh, hang on, let's give Lee some glory. He's waited all night to have clear skies, and he's finally.
It's easier to see the bat wings in this one.
Mm-hmm. That's it, imaging in HA too.
Yeah.
So that's sort of more like the view you would get visually of the Orion.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it looks like one of the. Is it the stealth fighters? Is it a Klingon stealth fighter? The bloke itself.
Klingon bird of prey.
Bird of prey. That's it.
Yeah. All of the Star Trek fans are sitting going, you haven't mentioned Star Trek all night, and you're talking about Star Wars. Now we have. There we go. They're happy now.
And it's the bird of prey, not the not the warbird.
Yeah. So we're going to jump over to the Running Man now, live from South Australia from Robert. Robert's got the Running Man Nebula here. And I've never understood the Running Man Nebula myself.
I'm with you, Mark.
I've just never got it. Like, it's meant to be a running man, and I don't see a running man in there.
No.
I think it's another one where we see it upside down, and so that makes it harder to visualize.
Yeah, I've seen the Northern Hemisphere versions, and I still don't see a running man in there. There ain't no man running in that. But it's an interesting and quite beautiful object. So, Steve, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Haven't I got much on this? It's a pretty popular object for astrophotographers, I think, this one, but perhaps not such a popular one for visual observing.
Much more difficult
to see. Yeah, it's about 1,500 light years away. It's part of the Orion molecular.
Surely you can be more accurate than that, Steve.
Did I say it's a reflection? I did say it's a reflection nebula. So in a longer exposure, it will appear blue as a reflection nebula. I've not got a great deal of information about it, really.
So what you're saying is
apparently most of the reflected light is coming from 42 Orionis, which is one of the brighter stars in Orion, and it's one of the blue giant stars, as a lot of them are in that space.
So what you're saying there, Steve, is that this is one that I should have a go at imaging with the phone then, hey? It's not really a visual one.
No, it's somewhere between. Yeah, try it. Yeah.
Well, we're going to jump across to the next one because quite a lot. I'm looking at the screens and I can see quite a lot of these floating around on the back end here. So, second last object for the night is the Horsehead and Flame. So, Horsehead and Flame Nebula. So, I'm going to jump over to Anne-Marie. Actually, do you know what, Anne-Marie? I'm going to save yours for the moment. I really am. I'm going to jump over to Kim, who's got a Horsehead and Flame live stacked from.
He's upside down too.
He's upside down.
Yeah, he's upside down. So Horsehead and Flame live from Stockport in South Australia. Kim, tell us, what do we got exposure-wise?
Let me check on that. I don't know. I think it was about 2 minutes. So I'm just switching over to another filter at the moment. So I only took 2 stacks. You'll see down the bottom there. So come back to me later.
Yeah, we will. We will. So you can see the horse head in that, I guess. Does look like a chess piece. And then the flame, what I like to call the flame tree, the coal chisel tree.
It's interesting because people talk about the number reference for the Horsehead Nebula as IC434, but IC434 is actually the bright emission nebula. So that sort of bright line, if you like, and then the Horsehead kind of intrudes into that.
The Horsehead is a Barnard number, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I'm
Barnard.
pretty sure. I haven't got the Barnard number, but I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah. It's interesting, Mark, that you see that other nebulosity as a tree, because I was introduced to it maybe 30 years ago as the Christmas tree nebula, because when you write it up the other way, if we were to turn that image, say, 90 degrees to the left, then the dark lanes become the branches of the tree.
Yep,
and
I would agree with that.
And the stars that are dispersed through it can be thought of as the baubles hanging from the tree.
Yeah. So, no, I would agree with that. And the reason why I went with the cold chisel theory is because it's the flame nebula, and to me it looks like a tree. And, the old cold chisel song, Flame Trees. Yeah. And to me, it does. It looks like a tree on fire. But I totally get the Christmas analogy to it, because it obviously it rises over that spring-summer period into Christmas for us. The stars that you can see could quite easily be seen as baubles.
Yep.
Mm. I think that's a great. So we've got Michael's got a version that's obviously a pre-image version.
I'm pushing it when it's only like 10 degrees above the horizon. Come on, give me a break.
Oh yeah, Perry, I looked it up. It's Barnard 33 is the chess.
Right, same as my age.
Perry, if you're 33, I'm 21.
Well, why wasn't I invited to your 21st, Mark?
I haven't had it yet.
Oh, okay. So you're really 20.
I'm 20. There you go. I'm 20. Okay. So we've got another live image here of this same region from Andy, and this one's we'll call it the right way round. But once again, Andy, how long is this exposure length so far?
That's just a single 2-minute stack. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Stop right there. Don't add anything more to it. Yep. And it will give people an idea of what it would look like under the most excellent conditions visually in a telescope.
Yeah. But you wouldn't see the red.
No, you'd see that. You'd see the detail that you see just in grayscale.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's one I prepared earlier.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah, but that's probably about an hour, like at least an hour. But I'll go back to stacking.
We're going to quickly jump over to Lee's, because Lee's finally got some clear skies. He's got the horse head there.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's on the.
This is about what you're talking about, what you would see visually. This, under perfect skies with a good scope, this is what you would see.
Yeah, what it actually looks like is more like a darker notch than the actual background sky. You don't see it as a horse head shape. And it's understandable, actually, that it was discovered photographically. It was never seen visually. It was first seen in a photograph, and then people started to try and look for it visually. So it's a very difficult object visually.
Mm. Yeah, Perry, I completely agree. I think the best I've ever seen is just to see that dark notch going up into the bright Emission Nebula, the IC434. You don't see any of that shape of the horse, but it's quite large in the eyepiece as well. I was a little bit surprised how big the black notch was in the eyepiece we were using. But no, I have seen it, but only just. It's a very difficult object.
Yeah. Yep.
Hey, guess what? It's about 1,500 light years away.
I don't think that many times I've seen this visually. I think it's. I've only ever seen it through the 40-inch.
I've seen it through the 25 and the 40.
Oh well, if you see it through the 25, I may well have.
I've seen it through a 6-inch, but it was an exceptional night.
Wow.
And I think a lot of it has to do with how experienced you are at being able to coordinate brain and eyes together as well, and to have some experience of what you're looking for. For people that are beginner observers or looking for it in their first view of the sky, they would see nothing.
No.
So I would absolutely agree with that. There are objects that I look at in the backyard, and I've had people say to me, "Oh, you won't see that in suburban Melbourne skies," and I'll look at it and I'll go, "Well, no, I can actually see it." And you're right, Perry. It's because I know what I'm looking for with that object, and I may look at another object that you might know what to look for, but I won't, and I'll look through it and go, "I can't see that," but you would see that. So it's all about knowing the stars, knowing the object, knowing the conditions,
and experienced. How much experience you've had as an observer?
Yeah. So the last object we're going to look at is M78, and it is Casper, the Friendly Ghost. So we're finishing on a bit of a Halloween one.
Just as we approach the witching hour.
As we approach witching hour, and we are approaching witching hour, this is Casper, the Friendly Ghost. It is a nebula, and this is live imaged from Anne-Marie. This is 2 stacks. How long are these stacks, Anne-Marie?
The 60-second exposures.
So this is 2 minutes worth of exposures of Casper the Friendly Ghost Nebula. So Perry and Steve, I'm going to throw it across to you.
M78 from Messier's famous catalogue. It's quite a deal smaller than the better-known Orion Nebula M42, and the distance to it is 1,427 light years. And it kind of does actually have this ghostly, faintly glowing apparition in type of view in the eyepiece. Now, a lot of people look at Orion, but 99% of the time they're looking at M42. So if they looked a little bit lower below the belt stars, they'd be able to bag this one as well. And it's a bit more challenging for beginner observers, but they should be able to get it. Anne-Marie's got a lovely view of it here, but let's be honest and warn people searching for it with a visual telescope. It's not going to look like this. It'll be much less pronounced and smaller.
Steve, have you got anything else to add to that?
I was on mute there. I've come on. Yeah, I agree, Perry. It's I don't find it the easiest object to find, and when you do, it's kind of a bit disappointing because it's just a bit of a misty patch. It's a bit like it's fairly small, but you know how when you look at, say, the Helix Nebula, which is also a bit of a faint misty patch, it's that kind of disappointment I find through a smaller scope.
Really? I'm surprised that you're comparing it with a Helix, because I think the Helix is the best of the planetaries to look at. It's certainly the largest and the easiest, but I know what you mean. There are disappointments. Many a girlfriend has told me that. So, you've just got to move with it and keep going.
Well played. I like that. That was well played.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. All right, on that note, we're going to finish up. This is a live image being stacked from Stockport in South Australia at the moment by Kim, the president of the Astronomical Society of South Australia. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who was on the stream tonight. Kim, Noel, Lee, the front yard astronomer who had nothing but cloud until the last half hour. Michael for joining us and teaching us a little bit about comets. Steve, thank you for your expert commentary. Andy, Anne-Marie, Perry, thank you very much for being here tonight. It's been great fun. We've still got 2 live streams left, which will occur tomorrow, starting at midday, which is the solar eclipse talk presented by Dr. Rod Hill. Following Rod Hill's talk at midday at 2 p.m, we have the solar live stream from Dr. Russell Cockman, which will be sharing a live view of the sun. Fingers crossed the clouds stay away. We have hopefully Lee on standby and Anne-Marie on standby to help Russell out if we have cloudy skies where Russell is. But thank you again for joining us on tonight's stream. We hope you enjoyed it. And again, if you're not following the ASV or the ASSA on Facebook, give us a like. If you're not following either society on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. And we will see you at midday tomorrow. And once again, to the viewers, thank you for joining us. And to the team here tonight, thank you for being here with us tonight. It has been wonderful, and your expert knowledge has always been great.